welcome to this Sunday, May 16th edition of the Island Stats Cricket Show. I'm your host, Earl Basin, and joining me are co-hosts Andre Doc Manders and Dean Miners. Also joining us is our special guest this evening, DeVar Boyles, the president of the Western Star Sports Club. First of all, Doc and Dean, all is well?
All is well, Earl.
All is good.
Good. And to our guest, DeVar, many people would know you from your football background, but as the president of a sports club, Western Star Sports Club, obviously you have the remit of overseeing the entire project of what goes on at the facility. We all know cricket is part of is a big mainstay of the Western Star Sports Club, as we have one of our co-hosts who used to play. Did you have a captain Western Stars, Doc?
A few games, yes. On tour, I captained a few games on tour.
Okay. And the other guy used to hit the ball all over the place around St. John's Field. So. But you have shared some very interesting ideas with the Bermuda Cricket Board regarding cricket and clubs. Can you share just a little bit of what you've actually shared with the board regarding club, I guess, collaboration?
Yes, good evening, and thanks for inviting me on the show. Excited to be here. Yes, from the Western Stars lands, what we did, we signed a memorandum. We have presented a memorandum of understanding with the board. It's all but signed. It was just one clause that has to be fixed. That memorandum speaks to both the board and Western Stars in conjunction with the site managers, which is Barclay, repositioning the cricket nets. What Western Stars would like to do would be to light it. You know, we're saying, why isn't cricket nets in Bermuda lit with lights? Like it's bizarre, particularly when you have dual clubs, football and cricket played at certain clubs, and they certainly have lights for football training, but it seems like it's never extended to the cricketers for whatever reason. So now that the executive and myself are in a position where we see parity, or what we want to do is bring parity to sports. Certainly at our club, we were looking at the idea of using some of the lights that were at St. John's for football. As you might already know in your audience, that Western Stars is under renovations as it relates to a new development at the field. So we'll be vacant from the field for about 2 years. And what we wanted to do is reposition some of those lights. So we reached out to some of our fellow affiliates, both cricket and football, to see if they'll be interested in lights. And the lights are free, but everybody does. I guess they don't want free stuff because no one's really come knocked on our door to say, yeah, we'll take it, because they're used lights. But for me, the lights are operational. The lights can certainly help. Luckily for us, Bayless Bay, we entered a memorandum of understanding with Bayless Bay, and Bayless Bay will use some of the lights. So we'll see where that goes. But the Barclay bit, what I was speaking to in particular, Western Stars wants to light the area to benefit the national team, to benefit Western Stars, and also all of cricket. Some of the ideas that we talked about was having coin-operated lights. So on the call, you have two big cricketers, and let's say they wanted to go into coaching. They can book a time. They can go to the BCB and they can pay, I don't know, whatever the rates will be. Let's say it's $100, and they can get a coin, and they can go up and they can operate the nets, and it should be 3 to 4 nets at Barclay for an hour. And that hour they can use to do whatever they want, as well as clubs. The other reason that we're looking to have not just at Barclay, but some of the other clubs as well. We would like my vision will be at least 5 clubs, and I'll speak to that later. But back to the the Barclay bit, what we're hoping happens is that all clubs will be able to use that facility and cricket can be extended, because most of the time cricket preparation is always played during daylight saving time. So with having lights and nets, then certainly you can extend the season or certainly start preparation for the season a lot earlier. So by having the lights or the nets lit, I think cricket can move to 8 months, 8 months a year. But maybe you shut it down in November, December, maybe even January, and then certainly you start it in February. And with that, you need some other things, and that's all part of the proposal or the idea that I shared with the board. So hopefully the board is in agreement with the lights bit. But from a procurement standpoint, we need three quotes. Western Stars has a quote, and the BCB has to produce two more quotes. And then once you have three quotes, then they will make a decision. So we're giving some resources to the board, but we're not telling the board what to do with the resources. So the ball is in the board's court as it relates to that decision. So, and we've been in a holding pattern for this to come off from, I would say, better part of 3 months now. So hopefully we're close to the finish line where this agreement can be signed with the three quotes in hand, and the board can make a decision. Because we was also trying to, the main thing was lights, but should there be some funds left over, then what we wanted to do was obviously to redo the nets. But that since which has been taken care of by the board. Not what I would have wanted, but certainly it's playable now, because what's there now is chain link fence, which I think will destroy the balls and the rest of it. It should be real netting, but the board, I would imagine, wanted to get the nets up and running very quickly because Doc is working with the under 19s. They need somewhere to go. The senior team was supposed to do something, so maybe they couldn't get the supplies and the real net in Bermuda in time for this lift. But I had another idea because, again, down at St. John's, we had, and Doc, you will know this, the big nets that stop the footballs from going on the field, into the road. That really is cricket nets. It's not meant for football. It was actually meant for stop the cricket balls going in, but it's so long that it's like maybe 120 feet in length, and it's certainly about 20 feet high. And what I suggested that they did, the board, was to build decent frames over the top of the nets and put that same netting right over the nets and create nets, real nets with the fencing. And that's one. So we only erected one on the northern end, but we have a brand new one that we never put up the southern end of the football field. That's there. So I'm saying those are resources that can be repurposed, but everybody has different ideas. So we just presented, like I said, options to the board, and the board decides what's best for the board per se.
Well, he's given us a mouthful so far, and we've still got a lot more to present. But Doc, when you look at or listen to the fact that with lights you can actually even start later or go later, there's so many options there. How does that open up the availability of having stretched out training sessions?
Oh, that's good, Earl, because especially if you're doing the national squad part of it, you could always do one-on-one with a lot of players, and that's what we need for the national team. And sometimes if you get 6, 7, maybe 10 guys in your nets, not all the times guys can get a decent ball and bat. So with the lights coming in now, you could stagger the times, and each person can get a decent hit. When I say decent hit, I mean sometimes if you look at professional players, they don't go in the nets for 15, 20 minutes like our players do. They go in the net 2 to 3 hours. That's what I'm talking about. And you're working on a specific thing. So with the nets, and if guys want to do extra training, if the lights, guys want to do extra training, you can accommodate them. So I think that's really a good idea.
Yeah. What's your thoughts in the wicket keeping aspect in nets, Dean?
No, first of all, I want to commend DeVar Boyles on the vision and the in the lights aspect, because that's something that's a that's a question that has been going around for a number of years. And this is the problem that we've always had, is training sessions not going on for long periods of time due to the light. The other problem is it's just that we could even have games, but the standout for me is it's free. Here's a situation where the lights are free, and it's going to answer a lot of the questions. So it gives more time to practice. Now, getting back to the wicket keeping aspect of having lights going in the nets, I mean that's added training that I can actually go ahead and do. Of course, I could set up some drills inside of a net and I could do some stuff, but it's just having the opportunity to, because sometimes you do play day-night games. And so that will work wonders to have those nets available, because sometimes I think what we're going to move towards in cricket is we're going to have day-night games into 2020, as we go overseas. Not every time that we're going to be stuck in situations, whereas it's like, you're going to have a day game. So we have to start to prepare. And I do hope that clubs do jump on this opportunity, because it's going to move us that far forward. And one thing that Mr. Boyles hadn't said is just that we can move towards 8 months of cricket. I mean, if you really think about it now, within the last couple of years, we've only 10 years, we've played, we start May, June, July, August, September, 5 months of cricket. 5 months. Mm-hmm. That's not a lot of time. I mean, if he's saying that, to have these lights, we can be going starting January. I mean, especially with the facility, fields could book the facility. So I think it's the perfect way to go.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Boyles, you were talking earlier and you said you had also a memorandum of understanding with Bailey's Bay. How is that relationship building and going thus far?
The memorandum speaks to a bunch of things. Like Bailey's Bay has, because they haven't had a diet of cricket, and based on their current model, I think a lot of clubs suffer. So I think the biggest thing that I'm suggesting that all clubs consider is their business model. Western Stars is making a big effort to move from alcohol sales driving sports, because it's not sustainable. The workman sort of clubs that we used to have, the model at Western Stars doesn't really support that. So we had to look internally first at our model before we can go into a memorandum of understanding with any club. So with that being said, Bayless Bay, because they didn't have cricket last year, and they didn't have, well, hopefully we have cricket this year. So as a result, the club is like fell on hard times. If you visited Bay itself, it's a shadow of its former self. So Bayless Bay, unbeknown to me, didn't have the resources that a club in my mind should have, being a single sport club. So what the memorandum of understanding speaks to, some assets that we had, that because we don't have a field, we can certainly reposition that to another club. So specifically, we're talking about the cutter for the wicket. Specifically, we're talking about a mower. But the funniest thing, and it's not just specific to Bayless Bay, is that what do you really need to play cricket?
You need a roller.
You need a wicket.
You need a roller. You need a wicket.
You need a wicket. Sorry. So
you need a pitch. You need a pitch.
You need a good pitch, outfield, yes. And then you certainly need a square. So Bayless Bay didn't have any clay. So Western Stars, as you know, the field was closed. What we should have been able to do was have clay from off our wicket. And when they were clearing off the grounds at Western Stars, they supposedly found some pockets of clay. But long story short, there they mixed it all up in scraping off the surface. So it was no clay at Western Stars. So luckily for Cricket Bermuda, I was in a position where I was doing some work and I stumbled onto what I thought was good quality clay. So I asked the cricket fraternity, the experts, to come have a look at it. And when they saw the clay, they said they haven't seen clay of that quality in over 20 years. Long story short, Bayless Bay were given 22 yards of clay free for the wicket. But the agreement with Bayless Bay, and this speaks to the memorandum of understanding, they don't need 22 yards of clay. They probably only need maybe 4 yards for their wicket because they're only top dressing it. They're not building a new wicket. My idea for collaboration of clubs, Bayless Bay, if they have room, they're supposed to dig a hole and put the surplus clay in that hole and bury it. Because when clay is stored below ground, all the energy and the nutrients, the iron, all that stuff seeps back into it as opposed to storing it above ground. And if Bayless Bay should be a depot for the eastern field. So if St. George's and St. David's needs clay, then they should just be able to go to Bayless Bay and unearth that particular clay at the start of each season. That was one of the ideas about collaboration, because just like Bayless Bay doesn't have clay or didn't have clay this year, now they have clay. So if they store it correctly, they can help cricket. So my proposal is like, okay, Western Stars has these resources today, but 3 years from now that we're not going to have these resources. Maybe someone else has these resources. But if we're not really collaborating as clubs, then everything's lost. So luckily for us, Bayless Bay has embraced that idea. And so they should be storing, well, the clay is on site. Whether they've dug a hole, I don't think that happened. But certainly they know that that's the ideal scenario. Then it just comes down to resources. So all those things, Western Stars has a better infrastructure than everybody would appreciate. Certainly, people don't know what we have like below the hood, for lack of a better word. But there's a big infrastructure in place at Western Stars, both for football and cricket. And Bayless Bay was pleasantly surprised to see the wealth of expertise as well as resources that we have to answer their particular questions as it relates to resources. So we're going to give Bayless Bay pools. We're going to give Bayless Bay lights. We've already given Bayless Bay clay. We're giving Bayless Bay already the cutter for the wicket. Bayless Bay eventually next week will get access to a mower to maintain their field on the outskirts. And anything else that they need, if we have it, then they have access to it.
All right. Well, we're going to take our first commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to have more with the president of the Western Star Sports Club, Deval Boyles. We'll be right back.
Spring has sprung, and it's time for the Friends of Hospice Butterfly Blast annual raffle. The sun is shining, and it's starting to heat up out there. This $1,000 Bates gift card will ensure your beverages stay chilled, and you can barbecue in style. The draw date is May 22nd for a $1,000 gift card at Bates. Check out our Facebook page, Friends of Hospice Bermuda, for details. Prize donated by Bates. Lindo's, why go anyplace else?
Well, welcome back. Devon, let me ask, how long have you had this vision and of assisting not only your club but other clubs of working and collaborating together? How long have you had that vision?
I guess that comes from, collaborating with people first. I think my generation, and Dean's part of my generation, is positioned now to help sports. So when we were in our 20s, we've always been having conversation about sports and how we can help. Now we're the wrong side of 50. We should be doing more, like it's our generation's time. So I don't think it started recently. I just think it's been an evolution of that idea of how to help sports. Yes, we're on this call for cricket. Yes, I'm known for football, but I guess Dean and I are both PE teachers, and PE is sport. So I don't think I'm loyal to anything that helps Bermuda. I think that's what I'm loyal to at the moment. So what I always try to do is look at what's realistic and what's supportable, and everything has to be based on zero-based budgeting, because you have no money. If you have no money, that's where you have to start from. And I like to, and Dean knows this, I always say imagination is more important than money. So I think it's having that idea, and that if that idea is attractive enough, then I think people can embrace it. So the idea outlives me or Dean and Doc and yourself, Earl, but it's something that other generations, if they see merit in it, then they can take it on. And that's what we're hoping pollinates throughout the clubs with this collaboration piece. Not only, and I hope that people see it this way, we're not only trying to collaborate with clubs, we're also trying to collaborate with the board, the governing body. And I hope that they see it from both ends. And we're forced to do that, by the way, based on not having a field. So it is, I wouldn't say you have to take care of yourself, and I get that. I think that's what most clubs are. They're about taking care of themselves first. But if Western Stars is the best club in Bermuda, but no one else can compete with them, then what's the point of that? So our thought is, can we help everybody? If we help everybody, we improve the standard and we improve ourselves in the process. So that's what we're looking to do with the idea. Resources, obviously we don't have unlimited supply, so we try to help where and when we can.
Any questions, Lee?
No, I'm taking it back. I mean, I'm excited because I believe right now there's so many clubs that are out there presently that are probably saying to themselves, well, as Devar said, they don't have the imagination, or they have the imagination, but they don't know how to get to where they need to get to. And I think that he's provided this platform to say, have the conversation, put up your hand if you need help, because really and truly during this time of COVID, we're in a position where you might not have the money, you might not have the resources, but you're going to have that conversation. And it's putting up your hand and maybe even calling Devon and saying, listen, hey, boy, sister, how can I get this? And he might be able to provide that avenue to get it. Because when you start hearing clubs that don't have a cutter, that don't have a wicket, that don't have this or don't have, those are very essentials for a cricket game to start.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if we're talking, we're talking about going to the next level, you can't go to the next level without having proper facilities, proper fields, proper pitches to play on, groundsmen that will cry out and say, I need this for better performance. We're not going to go anywhere, because that's the start of it before even the coin is tossed. Yeah. We have, everything has to be in order. So I think he's hit the nail right on the head.
Doc?
Yeah, Devar, just going to ask a question about the club itself in the next 2 years. What about, well, I know you're talking about the cricket. Is the field going to have we had talked about this, a lot of the cricketers, electric scoreboard and, stuff like that. And also training wickets when the club is done in the next 2 to 3 years?
Yes and no. This is, again, I think it's always important to be frank, because I think that helps you to get where you need to go. So a couple of questions. You said, and this is the answer as I see it today, the club sees it today. First of all, Western Stars, I'm the president of the sports club and the sports club only. I manage that end of it. The actual field bit that you're speaking to, it is under the auspices or the care of the Roots Foundation. The Roots Foundation is a Western Stars trust. And what that is made up of a group of people who have expertise to help the club transitioning from St. John's and back. I sit on the Roots board per se, but it's lights on, hands off. They have their own mandate and their own operating procedures, and they get on with the development of the club. So I can share with you certainly some of the things that they're discussing and doing. But again, the project of Western Stars is bigger than the Roots Foundation, is bigger than me, because it's the whole community of Pembroke West. So it is desirous for us to have the best facility for football and cricket. But when you don't have funds, then you have to be creative. So, for example, everybody talks about the project, and we're so thankful for government and GORMS to supply us with the opportunity to have this new field. As everyone might not know, the field itself is going to be put together by GORMS, but GORMS is not going to give us everything. So, for example, we're now negotiating with GORMS for irrigation. One of the reasons that this project is supposed to take 2 years is because it was dependent on rainfall. We all know that you might get it, you might not get it. And so that's why it was taking 2 years to resurface a field. But everybody knows it doesn't take 2 years to do that. It's going to take 2 years to grow proper grass if you're relying on rain cycles. So what we wanted to do is put on irrigation. Now, what we've been told is that the cost of irrigation is prohibitive. And so we had to do our own research and come up with something feasible to present to GORM. So we're at that point now. So stuff that I'm speaking to is still under construction, and we don't know where it's going, but certainly we know that we have to have that, because if we don't have anything else, but if we have a first class surface, then we can play sports because we're a sports club. So that's always the focus. So should we have funds left over for scoreboards, the scoreboard that you're talking about, Doc, we wanted yes, we wanted an electronic scoreboard. We wanted an electronic scoreboard that was on 3 poles that would be 2-sided. So during the cricket season, it would be for cricket, and then you swing it from one pole to the other pole on the other side. The other side is actually for football. So there's a lot of stuff like that we're looking to do. But again, all of that, we have to put serious skin in the game. So the Roots Foundation also is that mechanism that's also doing fundraising and some other things. You mentioned training wickets. In order for this idea to come to fruition for us, we have to have a revenue generating idea that helps the club to maintain itself. Currently, it's not going to be done through sports. So what Western Stars is proposing is to have a solar farm or garden. That solar farm or garden is going to, the initial projections to maintain a feel of the quality that we're trying to do, is going to be upwards of $30,000 a year just for the field. And so most clubs in Bermuda can't afford that. Neither can Western Stars. So the idea was to create a solar farm, and that solar farm, works when everybody else is tired, because it's just the sun that we're harnessing. And the revenue from the solar farm takes care of the maintenance of the field. So the area where the nets were currently positioned, that's going to be the area of the solar farm. So then we have to come up with some other ideas for both cricket and football. As you know, Doc, the club has transitioned to Northlands, West Pembroke, and Berkeley based on certain age bands for both sports. So when we get the field up and running, we want to cut the footprint down at the schools and give people an opportunity to train at the new facility at Western Stars. But if you can imagine the amount of sports that we have, we will destroy the field with the usage. So again, it's trying to find that balance. And so all of that's going to be built into what the Roots is doing. So part of the program for the Roots will be, that's going to be a part-time job for someone to manage that facility. Bookings, we're talking about, just like you're talking about lights for cricketers to train, there's also going to be lights at the field for the exact same thing. For football coaches, individual private coaches, the same thing for cricket. So we see Western Stars as a center of wellness. That's what we're pushing. That's going to be our model now. Less reliant on alcohol sales. Yes, we'll have the pop-up bars for match days, but outside of that, it would not be a social club per se where you will come members to have a drink through the week and that sort of stuff. I think that model has passed us by, and we need to now looking at more wellness models, because the whole world is moving to wellness, and I think that we want to be part of that wave, and certainly be part of the wave of being self-sufficient with the solar farms.
Mm. Well, we're going to take off. Go ahead, Dean. Go ahead.
No, I just had a quick question. How did you formulate that relationship with the schools, and how close is Western Stars to in the relationship with Berkeley and Northlands? Because you said you have a working relationship with them to utilize their fields. Was that easily to be accomplished, or was it really hard to sell? Because I know a lot of clubs don't actually connect with the schools per se. I mean, I can't say all clubs, but I know some clubs find it very difficult. Did you find it easy? Was it easy to connect with them and show them the vision? And then, because most of the students that actually come out of Berkeley and I guess come out of Northlands will be at the local club. So how was that connection piece?
That was really easy. The reason I say really easy is because we've always had the relationship with the schools. So, for example, West Pembroke needs their field cut for sports because government is unable to do it. Western Stars drives the field, cuts the field. Mr. Smith needs football girls. The PE teacher at West Pembroke. Western Stars donates football girls to not just to Northlands and Berkeley and West Pembroke, but also to Whitney, also to Delwood. So we've done a lot of stuff like that because, again, we have a surplus of equipment, and if we're not using it, why give it to another group who can use it? And so that we have always been of that thought. And because now we're in a position of need, and we went back to the schools, I think it was quite easy for the schools to embrace what we was bringing. And again, it's like they trust us because we've proven over the years that we do what we say we're going to do, and we're trying to help sports and certainly them. So I think that was an easy sell, but it wasn't just the schools. In order for us to have the footprint that you're talking about, Dean, it's done at the governmental level. So, for example, there's a controversial issue now with lights at West Pembroke. So very controversial. It's too hot for this conversation, but I'll say this, that in order for us to get lights, you need to have governmental approval, and we've gotten that. Then you have to get the principal's support. And then what we failed to do, and this is what Western Stars was really, really poor at, we thought that the community would have embraced that. But certainly we didn't go to them early enough with what we were going to do. So the bottoms fell out in a different way that we didn't anticipate. So we've kind of held off because we're supposed to have lights at Northlands too. But we've postponed the Northlands bit based on the West Pembroke bit.
Okay.
Well, we're going to take another commercial break, and we'll be back with more with the president of Western Star Sports Club, Deval Boyles. We'll be right back.
For almost 150 years, John Barrett & Son have been the home of Bermuda's best beverages, and they are proud to offer us the sparkling portfolio of Sunkist sodas with their refreshing rainbow of fruit flavors. Sunkist has flavors that nostalgically remind us of the bottled soft drinks we used to call minerals. The colorful thirst quenchers that are perfect for a beautiful summer's day. This month we're featuring the original Sunkist Orange Soda and new Sunkist Zero. Orange soda with no sugar and no calories. Lindo's. Why go anyplace else?
Deval, your plan and idea to have these training grounds, as well as the idea of possibly playing cricket longer. We know what we have as far as clubs and dual roles that they play in their various sports. How do you envision a longer cricket season as well as running into and out of a football season?
Yeah, easy. It's just math and availability. So how long do we have?
We got as long as you got.
Okay.
We're in a hurry.
Okay, three things. The plan that I shared with some clubs and the board was this. I think they have to go. The board needs to build build rules or organization into the game. So, for example, a lot of clubs, unbeknown to me, don't have the resources that I mentioned to put on to improve the facilities. And I think every club wants to have the best facility, but a lot of the clubs are not well run because it's volunteer based, because it's amateur clubs. Some clubs don't have the expertise of others based on a plethora of reasons. So my idea to the board would say, okay, from your own lands, what fields, if there was going to be international cricket, would you use? And they said St. David's and Whitehill, based on the capacity of the grounds. Then the next question I asked, which clubs outside of those two clubs do you think you can support? And they said, support how? I'm just saying with anything that you might have. And so they didn't really say anything. So I was just trying to pose questions to get feedback from them, trying to lead them along, I guess, where I wanted to go. But in the interest of time, my proposal was to have only 5 grounds operational. One of the reasons is that when you look at the amount of umpires that are available, it's no way that you want to have, 8 grounds being prepared, and you don't have enough umpires for the game. We don't have enough resources to at those clubs to do it. And if we look at it from a spectator participation bit, going to the games, it's not going to be well supported. So I think some of the resources are not going to be used adequately enough to generate and to sustain the game at all the clubs that were putting on games. So my proposal was to have St. George's and Somerset part of the 5 fields. And the other one was Bayless Bay, which is the only purpose-built facility in Bermuda for cricket, along with St. David's and Whitehill. Now, if you look at that picture, which big cricket club is not in the rotation? Asking this panel.
Southampton Rangers.
Southampton Rangers. Southampton Rangers. So exactly. Southampton Rangers model is based on bums in seats, and then bums in seats supports the club, whether they're buying from the concession stand or patronage of the bar. And that's most cricket clubs' model. So my proposal to Southampton Rangers would be, why not make Southampton Rangers the home of Western Connors? So if in a typical league season, they might get 6 home games. So if you guarantee Southampton Rangers the 3 rounds of Western Connors, plus you throw in the champion of champions, that gives them their 5 games. And so they can continue with their model. And the only reason I'm saying Southampton Rangers was not in this run, I'm saying for 2 years, the board should consolidate cricket and just play it at those 5 venues. And then what you do is get the clubs who don't, because right now, the Willowcotts, the Clevelands, the Flats, all of them think that they need to have their own facility to grow the game. They're not going to get their own facility because there's not enough land, number one, because if it was, they would have been had it. Number 2, again, cricket and football, the current models, they're not sustainable the way that we're driving them as we see them now. So I think we have to, and COVID has shown us that if we collaborate, we can do more. But most people are afraid of that collaborative piece because it's not enough safety precautions or protocols put into whatever they're proposing to do to enact the desired result. So if we just stick to the 5 grounds, then if I'm saying the board has 5 bowling machines, I'm saying, what are you doing with them? Oh, there might be at the girls' school, BHS. I'm saying, once you give them to those 5 clubs. Now, so if you go to a cricket game, like Doc was saying, we get there 10 o'clock or 9 o'clock, whatever time the game starts. You win the toss. Now you can get people go, instead of having the throwdowns, they can go right into the nets, and the bowling machine does that for them. So the batting coach can monitor that. And then my other proposal was, so if you have these 5 bowling machines that the board's not going to be using because the national team isn't training, so that's a resource that clubs don't have, but that's a resource that the board is not given to the club. So there's a disconnect to me, because if you're trying to improve the game, you need to get it to the people so they can use it to improve. And then when the national team powers up, if one of those bowling machines at Bayless Bay, and that's your training venue, then it ticks. But by having the bowling machine at all the venues, then technically the national team could train at any one of those venues. So it was all these sorts of ideas that I was throwing at them that don't cost any money, really, because some of the stuff you already have. And it's just positioning the resources into places where it can be used. But then it comes down to trust, because all national governing bodies, they give the club stuff, and then the clubs do what with them? Like, look at the green nets that they get. Stanford gave us. Like, all the clubs destroyed. So I get that bit. But the board and the clubs, we have to now put things in place to protect each other along this ride. Because if we don't, it's just death by delay in sports. You see the decline, and no one is speaking to it, and no one, in my opinion, is doing enough to keep the light on for all clubs. I think some clubs are always going to do well. So the cup match clubs, based on the historic bit of cup match, you see they do well. But now we haven't had cup match. Look at those clubs now. Look at those clubs. We haven't had county games. Look at Bayless Bay. So all these things you see, and it's like, are we all looking at the same stuff? Yes, but our interpretation of it is different. So some of the stuff that I was suggesting is how I felt we can improve the game. By having 5 grounds, now we can get the other bells and whistles. So you can get match referees. You can now get physiotherapists. So if a physiotherapist is working the Bayless Bay site for a match, then we can get people to, just like you do in cup match, a generic warm-up. That one physiotherapy company does both teams. They help with the warm-up, the generic warm-up. You're going to have your own betting specific and bowling specific warm-up. The other thing that they can help with, because the national coaches, Dean and Doc on this call, they always talk about the domestic players are not ready, but you guys don't help them. So in this scenario, you can weigh them in and weigh them out, and they'll understand that the hydration protocols, the nutrition protocols, all of that can be captured in with this person's remit of paying the physios to be there. Now, the other thing is, like, how we're going to pay for this. Cricket has to take a gate. Now, if we have venues put aside, now, let me use the Bayless Bay example. Western Stars is coming to Bayless Bay. So we're in discussion of what that looks like. But certainly when Bayless Bay is playing, then maybe someone from Bayless Bay handles the money for Bayless Bay, their gate per se. But Western Stars, because we're not playing, we have infrastructure, we help with the security bit. Anybody who comes to the game has to pay. Now, Bayless Bay have to work out, okay, I'm a member of Bayless Bay. What does that mean? So Bayless Bay now maybe have to adjust their membership to reflect entry now into games. So yeah, I'm a member. This is my right to walk into my club. But if Western Stars is playing, or even Bayless Bay is playing, then that has to be factored in, because my proposal is that to prepare a wicket is from a zero-based budgeting standpoint, $400. To pay for an umpire, $300, or up to $700. To pay for the physio, I would say another $300, or up to $1,000. So each match day, that club needs to generate $1,000. So football. If I look at the Western Stars football model, and I look at what we generate when people come through the gate, turnstile, we pay for ourselves. But when I look at cricket, they don't pay for themselves. Now, why would I pay if I'm a fan to cricket if all this time I'm going through free? You haven't done any improvements. So what am I paying for? So now I'm saying you're paying for that physio who's now going to do a better job in the game now, as far as assisting the athletes. from a dietary standpoint, from a hydration standpoint, from a warm-up standpoint. And now when I go to the game, I'm looking to the left and the right. I say, okay, it's not as a burner machine. I see people warming up better. So all of that creates a better product for cricket. And then people can, okay, I don't mind parting with my $10. Now, we all know that people in Bermuda want to drive in, right? So you make that parking. Now you charge for parking, premium parking. So if they come in, so I'm giving clubs and the association an idea about revenue streams, what they can create, and what can help to pay for cricket. I'm talking about just the bottom line stuff. So if I'm Flats, who doesn't have resources, how am I going to play for cricket? So with this model, it can be done that way. And then let's say the model fails. The board is in the board's interest to maybe, if they can find funding, to say, you know what, because Bayless Bay plays Southampton Rangers, that's a big crowd and maybe have enough. But when Bayless Bay plays whoever's promoted, maybe they don't make that $1,000. So can the board assist the clubs with that? Then when I look at the rotation of matches, so for example, we haven't played cricket for a while. People have took on jobs. So if there's only 6 teams in the current Premier Division, how many fields are we really using? 3. So why do we need everyone to prepare all these other fields? And if we look at the first division, we only got 7. So again, we're talking about 4 fields. So why would Western Stars pay? So if we're going to pay $500 anyhow to prepare a wicket, so if we're not paying that $500, but we're giving it to Bayless Bay now, then Bayless Bay should be able to do a better job with it, and all the other clubs. So this is a real collaborative idea. So everybody has to look at their own model first, and then the board or the clubs need to come up with ideas of cricket that's going to be sustainable over a 2-year period, because we're saying after these 2-year period, we want to go back and help the other clubs. So the other clubs would be Rangers comes back onto the ticket now, and any other club comes back on. Western Stars will be back on by then. We're going to need assistance. And any other club, Devonshire Rack might want to do it now. But the way cricket is being run, a lot of clubs, football and cricket clubs, when they really look at it, they're saying, which club's really going to pay for everything? And for the large part, cricket loses because cricket just doesn't pay for itself. If you're looking at it from a financial standpoint, and if you're a club like Western Stars, who you've got 2 teams, and you keep putting money to, it's like your parent. You got 2 children.
Yeah.
One children is special need, and another child is academic. So who do you give the resources to? This person maybe might be able to do something. This person really needs it. So it's like you just throw it up in the air, where it lands. But it's not sustainable. So what we're trying to do is answer those questions for both cricket and football at our club, and ask other clubs, how are you getting on with it? This is some of the things that we're doing. Would you be interested? And it's just collaborating, because we certainly don't have all the answers, and we're just pushing a few things out there to hope that other clubs embrace it.
Comments, Dean?
Oh,
I was looking at your face.
No, he's just answered everything. Because one of the questions I actually had was comparing football to cricket. I always thought that cricket had some chance of generating some sort of fun, because the people are on there all day, of course, drinking, eating, those sort of things, but not realizing that, like you said, football's 90 minutes. Sometimes you have a double header, but I didn't realize that cricket was not generating as much as they should be generating. And that again, it's a bit of a shock, and we have to really start marketing this sport to get it, to get it going again.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a shock.
The part about that is last season, when they were playing the 2020 at the 4 or 5 fields, they charged, I think it was $5 or $10 to get in. Nobody complained; they just paid it.
And they would.
So to Duval's point, COVID has taught us to adjust to certain things, and they found a way to do it without a whole lot of backlash. So why not just continue it? It's already started.
Well, of course, you're going to get the odd member that's going to go ahead and say, "Oh, why they're not at our field? Why we're not?" But like you said, with this model, it shows again at even ranges. The model basically shows that you're going to get all 5, Western Conference games at your field, so you're not really losing out. But in the best interest of cricket, this is where we need to go to. And we need to go to be honest with you, listening to Devar, I mean, we need to get there fast, because right now, I personally feel this is a window of opportunity. We've had an opportunity to reset ourselves during this period. And then all of a sudden, you have these, I think it's a brilliant idea. I honestly do. I mean, I think it's a way forward, really.
Yeah. Doc, one of the things in Bermuda we all know, and I'm pretty sure even in Devar's conversations with people, you have that I mentality of clubs. I should get this. We should have that. We can't give up this because we do that. What's your thoughts on that aspect?
Well, everything's changed now. Like you said, COVID's here now. One thing I would say, if the club doesn't have money, it's like how you gonna pay bills. Like interesting thing what Devar was saying about Western Stars now, that it's gonna be no bar. But I'm saying in cricket, cricket's an all-day sport. It's the clubs. I'm asking Devar this now. It's the club thinking about, okay, you're not gonna have a bar like. During cricket, it's going to be somewhere where somebody could be selling liquor or even something to eat during a game. Because you remember cricket's all day, like 11 to 6. So
to answer your question,
to make money. Yeah.
Yeah, to answer your question, Doc, I did say that. What I did say is that we will have match day stuff. So if it's a cricket game on, the bar will be pop-up bars is what I call it, will be operational. Right. Concessions will be operational. And those are the things that I'm suggesting that clubs need to have, because that's part of like how you afford that $1,000 for the match day to break even, just to pay for the running of the game. Because, you guys would know better than me. Other places in the world, everybody who plays cricket, they all pay tampons, and that's what you use to pay the umpire. I'm saying, and I'm thinking about Western Stars. I'm thinking about the Willow Cuts and all the clubs who don't have grounds. Like, how cricket must be expensive for them, because they have no field. They don't have the resources, don't have a bar. So the Western Stars, the Bayless Bay, okay, the bar brings something. But what if your Willow Cuts? What if you're Cleveland? How do you make cricket work? So my proposal is to say this is a way of leveling it, or certainly reducing the financial footprint on those clubs who don't have the resources today. And because we need those clubs, we need all clubs in order to maintain the game and grow the game. So all I was saying is that the element that comes with, you play cricket, Doc, and Dean, you guys play cricket because it's sport. And if alcohol is not sports enhancing. So as me as a president, I can condone alcohol through the week in and around sports. FIFA said it's not allowed, and ICC, I'm sure, is the exact same thing. So my suggestion is, yes, we can have the pop-up bars, we can have the concessions things to generate money on match days, but Western Stars model is not supportive of the bar continuing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, because you have to pay for the bartender, you have to pay insurance, you have to pay pensions, all these little things and when you look at the revenue streams, like, you're not even breaking even. So what's the sense of doing that? So when we looked at everything, and then if we're a members club, our members are not even patronizing the bar through the week. So we're providing a service that no one's really using. So when we did all of this, so like I said, we've ticked some boxes, and we've come up with this rationale to reposition ourselves. And we'll see too what we're how it really gets on. So that's the answer to your question is yes, we're going to have a bar for match days. Yes, we're going to have concessions, just not a social bar for Monday through Friday per se.
Mhm.
I think
And Deval, back to the original question. Obviously, you had these talks with the board. They're very open with it. Have you had any kind of, I guess, challenges to some of the ideas in any of the settings you've had?
Uh yeah, certainly. So people always can see me as football.
Right.
But what they don't understand, and and I don't need them to understand, but I have a wealth of experience in sports. I really do. Um, some people might know at one point I was director of football at the BFA, so I was running all football. So from an administrative standpoint, I'm competent. I'll just say that I'm competent. So when I look at other things that occur in sports, I think I can help, and certainly I want to help. But the help that I'm offering, somebody might not see it as help. So what I did with the cricket proposal, I spoke to someone at Bayless Bay. I spoke to Gennaro Tucker at Southampton Rangers because that was a big piece. Like, how are you going to tell Rangers, right, that they're not in the cycle? Like, this is arrogant football person coming in and saying this. So, but I was sharing with him that it was only for a 2-year period. But when I look at your current model, um, you know, this is going to still help you to maintain that from a cricket standpoint. But when I look at the facilities that are on offer, the other facilities are better. So it's about what's better for the game, not what's better for Southampton Rangers. But Southampton Rangers will benefit from this new structure because I can't speak for him because it's not on the call. But certainly some of the other stuff that we talked about, Gennaro thought it would be helpful. What he thought would be helpful would be if okay, Bayless Bay, let's say they have 4 other coaches. How many clubs have more than 3 coaches on a match day? If you look around, sometimes there's only one person doing it. So if I say, okay, this model, now the physio does this bit. Like, okay, I ain't got to worry about the generic warm-up where I'm over there doing the betting. The fielding one, he's just going to do generic ones. We've got some different things going on. If he knows the clubs at certain venues that the bowling machine is available, all those things, that's one thing less for the coach to take on. And so, for example, if anybody's going to get an injury in cricket, a head injury in any sport, it's probably going to be cricket. It's probably going to be cricket. Who is really trained to go out there and assist? No one. But if you look at football, if you look at Danny Tan's bench on a match day, you'll see somebody who's trained to go out there and assist. And what we don't do if we're playing a team, their physio, we look at their physio and say, you're helping both teams today, right? So all they do is look across, and if that person wants their assistance, then they will go and assist. We can't say not to do it, but we offer it. So, and that's where the idea was coming from. I'm saying, okay, when I look at cricket, like our club, we don't even have coverage for cricket. So this proposal is for the league. It's not for one club. Yeah, it's easy. Clubs that are run better from an administrative standpoint, have more resources, they can get all these things done very easily because they have the resources, they have the connect, and it kind of happens. But when you look at the other clubs, they're not in a position to do that. So if it's built into the league structure, then everybody benefits. And that's what it's trying to do. But even the physio model is not sustainable because we have to dive down a little bit deeper. So, for example, we have maybe 3 companies. We have Sports Rehab, which is Daniel Morgan. We have Apex, which is Craig. And let's say, I can't remember, there's another company that's name slips me. But for them to have someone to go to a cricket game, and we're talking about for the whole season, and keep in mind that they would have done something similar in football, how sustainable is that for the company? So I know that the answer, we might be able to get by for one season, but for going forward is not sustainable. So my proposal will be, can we bring in physiotherapists to help sports? So we can go through the Daniel Morgans and the Craig Browns, there's companies, and they can bring in someone to help sports in that way. So they can go to certain grounds and do that for both sports, for cricket and football. So again, it's a collaborative piece because nobody can afford it on their own. And even if you did it, then we're talking about, okay, because this is the idea that we was running off of, would be, okay, sports rehab, Apex, they have 6 physiotherapists. So one person does 3 hours, next person does 3 hours, the next person does 3 hours. And that's how you get through that match day. It works when you're for Premier Division because you got 3 games. It works for First Division because you only got 4 games per potentially. And then we just have to fix the rotation in that. So we talked about things that are realistic, number one, and supportable, but it's now we have to get to the next one. Is it sustainable? And it was not going to be sustainable for those people to be giving up all their weekends for the entire year for both sports. That's not, that's not sustainable. Yeah. 1 year might happen. Second and third year, not going to happen. But if we did that, I think we will see the benefits of that. Then it's again looking at the revenue streams to find out how we're going to afford this piece.
One of the things that you mentioned, Boyles, was just that with the smaller fields, and it's before we go off, it was match referees, and I think that's one of the things that I think we really need to go ahead and really look at. And I love your model because your model basically spoke to it, having the match referees because of the management of the game. Many, I don't want to say many players misbehave or those sort of things, but if you have one match referee for those games, monitoring those games to making sure that everything, it eases up the umpires. It definitely allows the players to understand that there is a match referee, there is a recording that's actually going on. So that is so important. And I like I said, I'm behind the model. If there's anything that you need me to do, I'm more than willing. But again, I love the model. I really do.
Can I just say one thing about that? And that's very important, about the match referee, because prime example, when we go to international cricket, when we go overseas, it's always a match referee. So the minute one of our players does misbehave, they get in trouble. It's either one game, they might get they won't get a game suspension, or they'll get written up. But down here, we don't have that. So a lot of the players get away with it, and that's a good point. We need to have match referee. We used to have it, I think, years ago. Somebody will come, but you got to remember, a match referee's got to be there the whole game. It's a lot to ask for, but we need to go that way.
Mind you, it was one of the things that I was speaking about one time before. It's just that I remember getting out one time in the World Cup, and I just went ahead and I shook my head. And then I got the match referee to come afterwards, and he was basically explaining to me. He was like, "Hey, listen, you know what? You cannot do this," because I was on camera. So I think, again, with the match referee, with the physio, these people in aiding and supporting players, that when they get to the grounds, they're already there. That's what's basically needed, because you're providing the environment. You're already providing the professional environment. So I really, really hope that clubs jump onto this, man. And I want to say one more thing. I got to say this. Also, I've always said this before, having a game of the day on the radio. A game of the day on the radio, basically to market the sport as well. That was the other thing that I was actually thinking about, because I think that's needed as well. And a lot of people do, because we only get Connie Cup, we only get Cup match, but even if it's a game of the week.
Well, let's take another commercial break, because Deval did say how much time we have. We have a lot of time, so we're going to continue this conversation. We're going to take another commercial break. We'll be right back.
Spring has sprung, and it's time for the Friends of Hospice Butterfly Blast annual raffle. The butterflies are emerging bigger and better than before this year, and there's over $40,000 worth of prizes to make things more exciting. 3 Caterpillar raffles containing $1,000 gift certificates leading up to the main draw. There are multiple chances to win, so buy early and increase your odds of winning. So spring into action and get yours today. Check our Facebook page, Friends of Hospice Computer, for details, or call 232-0859. Lindos, why go anyplace else?
Duval, when we start talking about all these things possibly coming together, how long do you think it would take to actually get those wheels turning to ensure that at least 50% of the idea is kind of put in place for whatever time we have a season this season, and they are fully operational next season?
I think three things. I like to say three. The administrators, the BCB, and the clubs, and they have infrastructure committees and developmental committees. I think they just need to look at really what's. This is my three. They have to look at the cost, like what is this going to cost? Like what's the dollar value associated to this? The second thing they have to look at is time. Do they have time and the resources to do it? And then the final thing they have to look at is the quality, because what we want to do is bring quality back to the sport of cricket. So if they look at those three filters and they decide what's really feasible for them to do, then I think that's the approach that they should take. The clubs themselves, like everybody keeps saying the board, but when I look at it, like, and it's so funny because the club is the board and the board's the club. Everybody knows that. But the club say, man, the board, man, you guys let the game go back like this, and I'm saying, like, how long have you been a president? I've been a president for like 6 months. How long have you been a president? I've been here for 5 years. He said, so y'all destroyed the game, because it's under your watch. So, but everybody doesn't get that, everybody, and they keep saying, yeah, I tried this and I tried that. And I get that too. But I think what they need to do is have a more systematic approach of the things that are doable. And if they put the right people in the room, I'm sure that it will happen. One bit that we haven't mentioned is the school bit, how to grow the game. So from my lands, senior school, no cricket is played in senior school. No, and this is not this year because of COVID. It's been for a while, but it's an easy fix. It's a super easy fix. So this is the easy fix. When does cricket season traditionally end in Bermuda?
September.
Okay. When does school start? September. When does football start?
October.
Okay, but in the senior school, and Dean said October, we don't really train. The first tournament is 6-a-side, and that's like the middle to late October. So really the first football games really take place in November. So why can't we play cricket in September?
Yeah.
Why can't we play cricket in September and October and have finals in November? Number one, the club fields will be still clean and ready, but the problem is transitioning to what? Football. So that's where the purpose-built cricket facility comes in. And I think more emphasis should be given to Bayless Bay because of that reason. If they're in a purpose-built facility, then Bayless Bay can certainly be that place for cricket for schools during those months. Because if you're going to try to have cricket during the May, June months, everybody knows is exams, and that's why cricket isn't being played. So exams are not going to be moved. So why can't cricket be moved? Why can't football be delayed? Because football, historically, we was trying to have these games. And again, because I've been a PE teacher for quite a bit of time now, I know these cycles and I watch them. So historically, we had football and we used to have the All-Stars in like end of January, sometimes in February. Why? To get college coaches to come down. That doesn't happen anymore. So certainly we don't even need to time the leagues to finish around that time. The school leagues, we can delay it to get cricket in. If cricket's something that the schools and the cricket fraternity in Bermuda really want. If they really want, then they have to reposition when cricket's played in schools at the senior level. it might be still be feasible at the primary and middle school level, but now we're moving away from middle school, so it's going to be signature schools and primary schools. So maybe it stays in the summer months for the primary schools, and then maybe September, October, November, we can play cricket in schools. We can get some games in. And that's a big piece, because if you're not growing it in schools, then at the top end of the game, you got less people playing, because the base is so small. So is this going to cost you any money? No. Most of the stuff I'm saying is, to me, is very realistic. It's very doable and supportable. It's just an idea. So if the idea has validity and people embrace it, then maybe we can do it.
And it's amazing, because in the middle schools, we had games going on. But again, like Mr. Boyle said, being up in the senior schools, it was a challenge, because, of course, May and June, they shut down. And so, of course, you're trying to work around. I mean, you get 1 or 2 games going on, but you try to work around it. But in the middle schools, cricket was so active. I mean, they were playing games and things right up until, the June. But then the surprising thing, at the end of June, I think no cricket was played. I mean, from the clubs and everything like that. So, yeah, we got to do something different. Yeah. Very true, Mr. Boyles. We have to do something different.
Yeah. You got to get that youth after school stuff going, because once school starts, kind of the youth games kind of altogether go away. Got to figure out a way to make sure that it funnels through right through the summer. That gives the youngsters an opportunity to keep playing.
But then my question is, why don't the clubs actually pull from, or I mean, everyone talks about the Shao Youth Tournament. Why don't the clubs actually pull from the schools, and then do their own, do like a sort of like a regional something?
Dean, because cricket isn't sexy.
Which is true.
So, it's true. Let me quantify my statement. The reason I say that is to catch your attention, and I guess the other people in the call's attention. Cricket is competing with football, as you know. So before football season ended in April, nobody did it. Now you have camps. Teams are traveling overseas. So, but when you look at cricket doesn't have camps. Cricket is not traveling overseas. So cricket season is being reduced. Football season is being extended. So when you look at that, it's difficult for people to embrace cricket, because they don't see the scheduling or the programming done that way. So that's why people, don't embrace cricket as much as they could. So again, we have to make cricket sexy. In order to make cricket sexy, we have to look at everything we're doing and adjust. And I don't think we're doing it fast enough, or we're not doing it at all in some cases.
And the other thing is the culture thing as well. I mean, if you look at it now, I mean, everyone talks about Champions League. Everyone talks about, the youth, they're foreign players. They always, talk about a foreign player. So really and truly, if you ask somebody about the youngster, like West Indies cricket, not like back in our day, we're talking about Dujon, Vivian Richards. So we're talking about all those cricketers. But like you said, it's not as much on television. Like you said, we don't see as much. When do we start advertising for cup match? We start advertising for cup match, what, July 1st? And then, you get Ron Connie Cup time. When does that start? When does that promotion start? But we should be starting, a lot earlier. So you are right when you go ahead and say it.
The other thing that I think is important to speak to is the bit about the generation, Generation X, the Generation Z, etc. What we love cricket. I'm not a cricket player, but I like to watch cricket. But if you really look at cricket is long. In some cases, it's boring. Boring meaning that if you don't understand it, and if you don't have that acquired taste for the longer versions of the game, then it's boring. So most of the generation now, they wasn't growing up on anything but the microwave. So you put it in, you press the button, the food's ready in 2 minutes. Our generation, you either ate it when it came out of the pot, or you had to wait a little while to reheat it.
Yeah.
Whereas we have to look at the games that we're playing. So, for example, as a PE teacher, you have to play modified cricket. You can't say, we're going to go out there and you guys are going to field for 10 overs, and then you guys are going to, your class is not going to last. You're going to do something. You're going to do some version of the game. Okay, you bowl 3 overs, or sorry, 1 over. You got 10 balls. You bowl 10 balls, and then you go field. And somebody else is. You always got to have this rotation to get them. If you hook them on cricket, then eventually they'll play the longer versions. But most of the cricket fraternity, we want to teach you the traditional game to the current people, and they're not going to grasp it. They're turned off by it. They really are. Like if you do some silly games initially, and when I say silly, I don't mean like that, but I just mean games to keep them engaged, to keep them playing the game, and then eventually you might be able to stir them to that. So I think like T10s and T20s is the way to go. You couldn't get someone to stand in the sun for 3 hours now, and the ball comes to them 5 times. They're not going to do this. This generation is not going to do that. Maybe if you allow them to have their AirPods and stuff on out there, that might help.
but you know what? But you said it right early on when you're talking about the night game. I think honestly, us moving towards light cricket, that may be a movement. But Doc, quick question. In England, when you saw the youngsters that were playing and that they were enthused and everything, what is the difference like in your eyes? What do you think is the difference in your eyes, Doc?
Well, see, in the UK, you got more competition. Out there, everybody's trying to be a professional, whether it's football or cricket. So they'll always. When I was coaching in the UK, I was doing some coaching at club levels. The families, everybody wanted to do it extra because to compete, to play professional, even to play semi-professional, you have to do your extras. So families will come to say, Mr. Manos, can you do extras this, extras that? After they already had coaching, whether it's football or cricket. They're doing extras. Like the kids out there, like, and this goes from like maybe up to 8 to at least to 16. But in that time from 8 to 16, they can get picked up by some of the county teams. And for example, like Marcus Scotland and a few other boys that have been on the UK, they get picked up by county teams, but it's what they do after that. Do they stay there? Can they make the grade to become a professional cricket? But from 18 to 16, they can do it. But it's not hard. It's just and doing the extras. That's what it's all about.
It's a big incentive.
Incentive.
I think what Mr. Boyles has the suggestions that he's put on the table. I think it's about coming out of that comfort zone for a lot of people and a lot of clubs, because they're so comfortable in saying, "Oh, we've done it like this for this many years, and it quote unquote worked for us. Why are we going to change it?" Well, sometimes change is for the betterment of both sports. If we're talking about clubs that we're utilizing, because all these clubs do the same thing. They do football, they do cricket. But a little bit of change can actually help both programs within one club. And then with the resources that he's suggesting as well, your club could benefit from somebody else. So I'm here to encourage you, Mr. Boyles, to continue to champion that call. And if by chance, there are those naysayers, because we'll always have those naysayers, as you've already indicated. You always have those naysayers. It's a matter of getting the right people. And when I say the right people, I'm talking about the affiliates and their memberships to kind of buy into the idea. And when I say buy into it, I mean just commit what you can to the idea of generating, the resources together to help their sport and their club. And again, I want to say thank you very much, because obviously, people always talk about different things in pockets and around people they're comfortable in talking around. But here's Mr. Boyles openly talking about or suggesting that it is time for a change. It is time to rethink some things. It is time to kind of collaborate. And Mr. Boyles, you have any parting words? Because I know there's a lot of people right here who have listened to you and have made comments and so forth. But any parting words?
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head about change. Change is either easy, change is painful, but change should always be necessary, and I think that's the key. So for me, I think cricket has to change now. It's necessary. If not, cricket will die a slow death. And once cricket dies, the other sports will get right back in line. The same thing will happen. So again, I'm encouraging Bermuda, everyone in the cricket fraternity to support the board, support your club, collaborate a little bit more than we have in the past, and let's see if we can really help the game, because that's what we're all in it for. My time's short. I'm going to be the president of Essence Stars for 2 more years, so then I'm out. Somebody else's turn. I've tried to move the chains and see what happens next. So thank you for having me on the show.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah. Well, Dean and Doc, we'll be back next week with another edition of the Island Stats Cricket Show. And again, Mr. Boyles, thank you very much. And folks, have a good night.